welcome to the Vivify Humanity Podcast. My name is Jeff Jones, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing my good friend, Matt Butler. Matt, it's really great to have you in here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this. We've been trying to make this happen for a while, and well, what a perfect time. You have a grand adventure coming up, and well, I had a chance to have you in my space for a little bit and speak to you for a while, and it really seems like at the forefront of your world is a change in work and a change in how you work and how you want to serve the world through what you do. And I want to hear more, and I believe others would get a lot out of this transition that you're in.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to talk about any of it.
Let me know. And you don't have to get into too many specifics about work, but I'm just really curious about how it feels. Just this whole podcast. I really want to talk about feelings. That's what I connect with. I think many of my viewers will resonate with how you currently feel about your work, and you can tell them what it is that you do for work and how it feels as you are now starting to come out of that, and the feeling that comes up when you think about what else that you can offer. Because you've spoken to me about that before, maybe working one-on-one with others and businesses and business owners.
Yeah, so as of late, for the last 15 years, I've been working in the business world.
Mm.
And, there's a lot of things you can contribute in the business world to other people and to their businesses. But in my world, it kind of became exhausting. Like it became tiring.
Mm.
Like the deeper you go, the more drain, the more demand, and just kind of the way the dynamics have been going. And so I wanted to back off on that because it's really been, as of late, it's been a lot of just very logistical, very functional, a lot of just heavily money driven. And and I understand that's where we need to have that and we need to be able to function. But I just want to get back to more contributing and unless like we got to make the money, but I just want to contribute to other people
Mm-hmm.
to make them more capable, to grow their skills, to just better their lives, but not heavily in a monetary way, but in a personal way, which is going to lead to the monetary gain, but more in a personal way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of the transition I'm working on right now. Yeah.
I remember you telling me you've been very clear that it's not coaching that you're going to get into or that you're interested in.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe you have found or if it even needs a title, but I believe that you were working with someone, if maybe they were mentoring you or there was a back and forth with another man.
Yeah. I've been doing some pro bono work with some people because starting the business itself has, like, from the timing dynamics, it hasn't really been the great timing, but I'm moving into where that's more opportunistic now. So it's, I mean, it could be looked at as some coaching, but really the concept is helping to align people with purpose,
Mm-hmm.
helping people invest in themselves and in a means of kind of clearing some of that noise and just getting more clarity on where they're going and what they're doing. So you could call it business development through self-development. So it's kind of mixing both the business world and the personal development world together. The hard part is a lot of businesses don't really look at it that way. They're more, here's our business side, and the personal side is yours. But we need to understand that we spend so much of our lives at our jobs or in our businesses that they work together. And so, yeah, I just think that if we can help people improve where they're at and where they're wanting to go and line them better with where their directions are, then that can help with businesses as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But really, for me, it's a human focus,
Mm-hmm.
not a bit. I'm more interested in the human development.
Human
Yeah.
development.
Right.
And I know some of your story, and I'd like to get into that. And I believe that your experiences in life have driven this value on human and human connection and, well, connection with self, and especially in business. And I want to hear more about what brought that value in you. And really, I know that you had a motorcycle accident that, and if there's anything before that that really maybe sparked this desire to turn inward, please tell me about it. But I have a feeling that it was the accident that really like started everything off.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's definitely a major, major part of it, and you'll understand that. But I I will say, you know, in where you just said there was probably something before it. There actually was.
Mm,
When so me and my family, we split ways pretty early in life,
okay.
and I had to really get into being able to provide for myself at a very, very young age. Um, and just because of the way things worked, uh, it developed really quickly. And what I found was in my work, there were opportunities to be able to help teach and train other people because a lot of things to me just automatically made sense. I have a very mechanical and very sequential functional mind. And so anything that's mechanical or has sequencing to it, it just makes sense for whatever reason, right? And and so at a very young age, I started actually teaching. And so
Okay.
I would teach other technicians, I would teach other service providers in the industry that I was in. And that quickly developed. And I started teaching at the local college when I was like 21 or 22 years old. Yeah,
Really,
something you didn't know about me,
I
right?
didn't know that.
So, yeah, I started teaching as an adjunct part time
Okay.
in my early 20s.
Okay.
And all of this teaching and all the like private, so I was doing private training, on the side. I was doing adjunct professional training at the college. And I found how much I loved contributing to other people.
Mhm.
I love it so much. I love it so much. Just having them be able to see the light, having them, whatever they're aspiring to do and whatever they're trying to accomplish, if I can contribute to that, and when they see it and when they get it and when it goes, I love it. Like it is just so good. I get so much gratification out of that. So, yeah, that for sure, prior to this accident you're referring to, that was a major thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, that the accident you're referring to
Hmm.
took me out of that.
Okay.
Um, so shortly before I turned 30, I was in my late 20s, almost 30, and I had a motorcycle accident. Um, and in this accident, and it was 100% my fault. I have to clarify that it was 100% my fault. Um, I, uh, I, I broke basically everything from my pelvis up.
Hmm.
I think my back was broken in about 15 places and my neck in 4 places. All my ribs were snapped off on one side. They went through my lung, so I had a punctured lung as well, and my skull. So the
Yeah.
biggest thing was my skull. This whole right side of my head was basically taken off. Um, and so they flew me, to the hospital, and I was in a coma, and there was uncertainty, obviously, if I was even going to live. And they spoke with my family about all the end of life stuff, but I ended up not dying. Like
Hmm.
it just didn't happen. And when I came out of the coma, I had the cognitive ability of a child. So that's a pretty extreme from day one to day waking up,
Yeah.
of being what can be perceived as being very accomplished or successful in my efforts over here to having it all gone immediately and not even be able to function. Like I didn't have any memory of life. I didn't have, I had, like I said, the cognition of sometimes it was a cognition of a child, and sometimes it was like adolescent, and it just depended. It was different day to day. Um, yeah, I didn't have any memory of life, and there was people I'd known for my whole life that I had no idea who they were.
Mhm.
They would come up and talk to me, and they were complete strangers to me. Um, so yeah, that was a major starting point to the whole process of relearning to learn. And I mean, not really by choice, but like I had to
Yeah.
relearn, right? Um, and and that was a long, long, long process. I mean, I feel like before I really turned a corner, I was probably between 15 and 16 years before I really turned a corner to where I felt like I actually was was making really, really good progress.
This is after the accident?
Afterwards,
Wow.
yeah. So I couldn't work. Again, I was out of work for 6 years. And during those 6 years, I actually went back to school to relearn how to learn.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting another college degree out of it in communication in that round, which was fantastic. I mean, I think that's probably one of the best avenues you could go down by far for success in life is communication and understanding people, understanding humans. Um, but yeah, I didn't I plateaued.
Mhm.
Like I started to learn, but then I plateaued, and it was like I couldn't get past that plateau, and I was stuck. I mean, I was stuck for like 10 years, just plateaued. I was functional, I could live, I could provide for myself, but I really wasn't able to do much more. Um, so yeah, that's I guess that's where
I, I do want to talk about that moment of plateau, but
mhm,
I'm curious with the memory loss, did that change relationships with your family? And did those need to be relearned, or was it immediate about like feelings carried from childhood?
mhm, yeah.
How did that all evolve?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting one to look at because since I had no memory, I had nothing to reference.
Yeah.
And so it was unbeknownst to me as to why I hadn't really been with my family for so long.
Okay.
Like I didn't understand,
Yeah.
like I had knew the story and I knew that I had been independent for a lot of years, but I didn't have any idea why I had been independent for so many years.
Hmm.
And so um, I actually got discharged to 24-hour care with my family. So I was immediately back with the family, which I didn't really understand those dynamics at all.
Hmm.
Um, and everything was I like I don't want to say like life wasn't really fine because I didn't understand life and I didn't understand social dynamics. Like um, if someone met me, they would have put me on the spectrum for sure. I mean, for sure,
Hmm.
because I just didn't understand. Um, but yeah, I didn't ever think about it until probably about 5 or 6 years post to when things started to resurface and I started to reconnect
Okay.
subconsciously. Like I started to I started to have some memories come back and but it was real scattered. And as those memories came back, these feelings that you're talking about
Mm.
started to resurface. But it was so confusing because I was like, well, why would I feel that way? Like and even without the memory, I might run into somebody and I would interact with this other human and I would be like, well, why do I why would I feel so attracted to this human? Like, why would I have such a good connection with this human? Whereas someone else, like, I could immediately be turned away from them. And it all had to do with like growing up, but I had no access to that, no, no aware access to that, even
Mhm.
though subconsciously it was still happening.
Yeah.
It was such a unique thing. It was really hard. Like, I didn't understand it for a lot of years. And it wasn't until when I talk about that real big turning point,
Hmm.
15 to 18 years later,
Yeah.
that's when I got it.
Okay.
That's when I figured out the dynamics. And I was like, oh, now this all makes more sense. as to sequentially how our minds work. Because I went down this avenue of when I came out, I was hell bent on learning cognitive brain development because I had lost it, right? And so I was just adamant. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to relearn it, and I'm not going to let this beat me. So I start going down the avenue, and it quickly turned and started going down into, well, I shouldn't even say quickly. I learned that, and I had to get back into life and be able to put a roof over my head and feed myself. But eventually, it turned into like the neurology and neural development and neurobiology. So once I started going down that avenue, a decade plus later, that's when it really started to make a change, for sure. Yeah.
Made a change within you when you went down that avenue?
I started to understand. Because I started to understand how we develop perception. And under that perception, because perception to me is everything. Perception is not only what we're aware of, but what we're not aware of, and all the meanings or definitions that we've applied at a subconscious level, because that's what's going to drive basically your endocrine system, like your emotion, like the hormonal balance is based on whatever meaning we applied when we were a child, that we're carrying at a subconscious level. That's what our brain is working with to tell us where we're at, to tell us how we feel, to give us perception, to give us perspective on what we're interacting with in life. But yeah, once I understood that sequence of operation and that our brain functions on a neural sequential pattern, it all made sense why I felt this way or why I didn't feel this way, or, depending on what state of mind I was in, how that feeling could go this way or go that way. So all the dynamics of our brain and how it functions. Once I understood that, things really started to get better.
I know you speak publicly, and I believe you bring some of this to those speaking engagements. What is it that that you bring in those engagements as far as the sequencing, and what is it that you try to share with the audience?
Yeah, that topic is an extremely difficult topic, especially in more the in an audience. One on one, it's a lot more manageable. In a larger audience, it's really hard to shoot it because you've got so many different perceptions, you've got so many different lives that have developed perception that it's hard to go there and get to that level with that many people, because you kind of just, when you're speaking to an audience, you kind of have to shoot it up the middle and just hope you pick up some here and hope you pick up some there. So when you get to topics that are deep like that, it's really difficult. In fact, I've had some extreme failures in presenting that topic because it was just the wrong venue and the wrong audience in that spot. So yeah, you have to, for me, I have to really work with people more one-on-one to go deep into that kind of stuff. I mean, if we're just talking generic things, that's fine. But yeah, it's to go deeper, you have to be more one-on-one, because you need to understand, you have to meet them where they're at. Not, and that's not in a condescending way at all. It's meeting them where they're at so that you can be together is where it's at. Yeah.
If you're able to and open to, can you share some of those one-on-one engagements and maybe what it was like
Yeah.
opening someone up and meeting them where they're at, I would say in a loving way and open-hearted way, and then going from there, how that all came together?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot like when I was teaching before in the public world, and you could see that light bulb go, and you could help somebody understand a concept and help them move forward. Doing it one-on-one is very similar to that, because it's a pretty slow progress. It depends on the person, but it's a first you need to work with the person to where there's trust, to where there's safety, where there's comfort, and there's not. We need to be in a comfortable position because that comfort is what's going to be your state of mind. Because if you're not comfortable and you don't feel safe with the situation, you're not going to be open. I mean, and that's really what it is the neurosequential is you have a pathway between your subconscious and your conscious awareness. And in that pathway, if you're feeling threatened, it basically closes. And if you're in a safe position, that pathway opens. And to have any kind of self-awareness of any kind, you got to have that path open so that you have the communication from conscious to unconscious awareness. And this is kind of a deviating from what you just asked, but I'll get there with it. But between the conscious awareness and the subconscious awareness, where we're unaware of it, we don't speak the same language. You have to have a translator to go from conscious to subconscious. And what's so interesting is we don't really even have the ability to tell our subconscious to do anything. We have to influence it. We almost have to like court it. We have to we have to influence it into the moment. And that goes back to our very initial learning, because when we built the foundation of perception in our first 2 to 3 years of life, we didn't have words. We didn't understand words. We put meaning to things based on presence and based on environment. And that's the way our subconscious still learns today. And it's learning every single day based on our environment. Your conscious awareness will learn from a top down, from a dialogue, from words, from experiences. But the main part of it is going to come from a world with no words. It's going to come through experiences where you're experiencing a feeling. You're taking all these sensory inputs, and based on whatever happens in those sensory inputs, you're going to put definition to that cocktail of sensory inputs. And then that becomes a meaning for that environment. And if that environment treated you well, it might be a good meaning to you. Or if it didn't, it might be a bad meaning to you. I mean, it's going to be different for every person. But it's heavily influenced based on the presence, not the words. And that's why I say we just we don't have the ability to convince ourselves to feel differently. Like, you can't just tell yourself to stop feeling that way. You can tell yourself all day long, but it's not going to retain. It's just not going to stick. You need to change your environment. You need to change the inputs and the messages that are applied to those inputs to feel differently. And that's where the whole going inward part comes from. I mean, because if you don't know what meanings have been applied, I mean, when I first start speaking with people, and this kind of goes back to the one-on-one working, but when I first start working with people and stuff like this, they might feel very clear. Well, I know where I'm at. Yeah, I know how I feel about that. Well, that's a conscious awareness, and that's the meaning that you want to have on it. And maybe it is the meaning you have on it. Maybe it is 100%. But a lot of times there's a deeper level to that, but we're just not aware of it. And so once we become open to going inward on that and actually spending the time to truly learn what we've assigned for perception, like that's where the big ahas happen. That's 100%. Like with my students previously, when I was teaching them logic and teaching them mechanical controls and things like this, and they were like, oh, I get it. When I work with somebody one-on-one and we have a handful of, hours together, like 1 hour at a time here and there, 5, 6, 10 times after a visit, all of a sudden I'll be doodling something on a napkin and say, well, this moves to here, this moves to here, like in the neurosequential. And after that many times, we've been able to get to where they can see it. And all of a sudden they're like, and it's like, boom. And they just get it. Yeah. And I love it so much. It's life-changing. It is. It's life-changing. And it's life-changing for more than just than that person. One experience, like you asked specifically about an experience with someone. Man, this one guy, I love him to death. And we would get together maybe once a month, maybe, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. And the dynamic has helped with him be a stronger leader at work. Um, it helped him understand the people he worked with. It helped him become a stronger influence on the people that work under his umbrella, if you will, right? But the even bigger factor was at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come in like every month or whenever we would get together. It wasn't it wasn't a fixed time frame. It was just whenever we got together on stuff. He was so excited to tell me about what had changed at home and what had changed at work. And he's told me about the changes that he's made after understanding the sequencing of our minds and how our minds work, of how he sees things. So once he learned how he saw things subconsciously, he's able to start um, taking some of the resources that or the things I invited him to look at,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he started implementing these things. And then a few months later, like his exchange with his wife changed,
Beautiful.
and then his wife changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he was telling me last time we got together, he like his wife has really struggled like her whole life with like personal perception and expectation and things like this. I don't even know his wife. I've never even met his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But just on his dynamics of interacting with the family and changing the dynamics of interacting at work, it changed what he took home and it changed what he took to work. And it just changed his perception of the world, how to interact with the world, which changed
Yeah.
it changed them too. It influenced them. But anyway, he told me in like the last year or so, his wife has lost like over 100 pounds, and they're running marathons, and like they're excited to get up and to live,
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff. And I'm not saying that I get credit for that by any means, but he'll come in and be like, "You won't believe what this is doing to me. You won't believe what's changing my life based on this stuff that we're talking about." And I love it so much.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, and I work with him on a professional level. And so I can watch what's happening with him at work.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so passionate about saying the personal development for business development, because I can watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do this with a ton of people, even not even in a formal setting, like all day long. And I love it so much, being able to watch them evolve.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
special. You talked about environment, and the way I'm seeing it is he had a chance to kind of come to his internal environment, and from there it had a ripple effect on everywhere he showed up and where he chose to show up in his relationship and work relationship. And would you say he had him doing some inner work influence the work environment and even those he was working closely with?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. No question. 100%.
And speaking of internal environment and turning inward, I want to hear how you approach that, and if it's changed over time. If there was an approach you took in the beginning of turning inward, what that even meant at that time, what it means now, and kind of what stuck, what you've let go of as far as practices, or what meditation looks like for you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really curious of your journey inward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I I'm passionate about motorcycles, and I love motorcycles like crazy, right? And uh, I think at this, well, I don't think I know at this point in my life, because I counted like maybe a year ago. It's somewhere between 28 and 30 times, not directly to motorcycles, but 28 to 30 times I've been put under sedation or anesthesia or something for some sort of procedure.
Mhm.
And a lot of that's attributed to motorcycles, not 100%, but a lot of it is. So probably around 20, I think it was around 2016, so about almost 10 years ago now. I had another accident, and I broke my tib fib in my right leg, and had to. So now I have a rod, and so I'm chock full of metal, but I have a rod in my right leg, but lower half of my leg, holding it together and screwing everything together. So I was really concerned. There were some complications with the surgery, and I actually had to go back in and have it all dismantled and reassembled, and it was crazy. But we couldn't really get the movement back in that leg, which meant I was going to struggle to get on motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's not okay. So I started going after this, and I'm just like, I'm not going to let this beat me.
Yeah.
I am going to be in charge of this. I'm going to get back on. So after all of my like physical therapy and stuff got me as far as it could go, it just wasn't enough. And so I bought like a mountain bike. I was like, this movement, it's fairly passive, but it's gonna get movement and flexibility and move blood flow. At the same time, with a lot of my brain treatment, I had attended some support groups in like a yoga support group.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I really didn't get much out of it because I just wasn't there. I wasn't available. It was during that window of time where I had plateaued and I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't functional. But after the broken leg and all that stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into yoga because I need some flexion in that foot. So the whole point was to go to yoga so I could get flexibility, which I think is why a lot of people do yoga because they think, well, yoga is about stretching and I
Mm-hmm.
need to get flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yes.
where I went,
Where it
right? So that's where I went. Well, that's not what yoga is about. Not for me. That's where it started,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not where it's at today. So I start practicing, and you know about this because you actually were at the studio where I landed. I tried numerous studios, and I did a lot at home, you know, but the studio I really landed at, you were teaching at the time, and that was a huge influence for me. You were a huge influence for me in this journey. There's 2 or 3 instructors that have been huge players for me, and I love you all so much for this. So I start learning through the practice, like the repetition of stay with your breath,
Mm-hmm.
stay here, focus here, stay here.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was like, I'm just stretching. But I started to recognize what was happening because when I would go and I was paying attention to that pinky toe that I haven't paid attention to for so many years, I'm like, oh. And all of a sudden I started to be connected to what was going on inside. And that started to open up that internal awareness. That internal awareness started to connect with outside of the studio to where now when I didn't understand why I was having a reaction to something, why I didn't understand why I felt a certain way, it started to make more sense. And I became more aware of like if I was really calm in an environment or if I was really anxious in an environment or had a lot of anxiety in an environment, I was just more aware of it. And so it was interesting. Excuse me. It was interesting to be able to see, to be able to recognize those feelings and what I was feeling and experiencing internally more often. And I attribute all of that to being able to the practice, to going inside of the practice, to listening to my body, to listening to not only the neurological like electrical signals, but also the responses from my muscles and from all my functional parts. I'm just more aware of it now. And so I get there quicker. I recognize it quicker. Well, I was at meetings. I was traveling and I was at business meetings. And one of my counterparts, who I see maybe twice a year when we travel to the same location, we don't live anywhere near each other, but we were at the same location. We went on a break and I stood up and I was walking across the, the room we were having the meeting in, and he was sitting right here. And I went past him and he looks over his shoulder and he goes, "Hey, I want whatever you're having." Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's that supposed to mean? About 3 months later, I had another counterpart, a completely different counterpart who we hadn't actually gotten off on the best foot 15, 20 years ago. We had worked well together and we do fine together, but we were probably very too much alike each other, one of those dynamics. Mm-hmm. Well, about 3 months after this guy said, "I want whatever you're having," she called me out of the blue, 100% out of the blue. And she goes, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What's different? What are you doing differently? So I start working backwards. And the biggest difference was starting practice
Mhm.
and starting to go inward and starting to do that. What started as what I consider a moving meditation.
Mhm.
Um, and that became a non-moving meditation. Um, that's what I was doing different. That's what I was doing different. I couldn't have told you that. Someone else recognized it
Mhm.
in me. Um, so yeah, that's where it started. Like that's kind of how it got going. But the moving meditation is one thing. It's fantastic, not only for physical
Mhm.
fitness and for keeping that energy moving within your body and not letting certain areas pocket and build and
Yeah.
go stagnant.
Mhm.
You're keeping that energy turning over and moving, so that it doesn't reside and resonate and ruminate and all those R words that are involved with it, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting that turnover rate, which keeps it clean. It keeps you clean, mindfully clean, physically clean, like a lot of things. It just keeps you clean and keeps it moving. Um, but then also the non-moving meditation.
Mhm.
So for me, the way I do it is I turn off my senses essentially, and this all makes perfect sense to me because in my career it's always so I've moved energy, like physical building energy, in my whole career. And when you work with building automation systems, you're always taking in sensory inputs,
Okay.
you're processing the data, and then you're sending out signals. It's exactly what our brain does. Exactly what our brain does. Once I learned the neural sequential functioning of it, I was like, oh, I already know this.
Shit.
I already know this.
Yeah.
It was like click, click, click. Oh, I know it, right? And as soon as I figured that out, I was able to watch it happen. I was able to feel it happen inside, and I was able to redirect it quicker. And the more often you redirect it. Anyway, for the non-moving meditation, I learned that I could take all those external sensory items and turn them off. And it took several years. It took several years to be able to learn how to do this. Um, but a little bit at a time, and it gets better as you practice, right? But once I learned how to turn off all those external sensory items, I'm basically turning off the outside world. And I'm only on the inside world. I'm only here. And it gives me a time to reconnect. And it gives me time to just interact. Basically interact with my subconscious, if you will. Um, and just get on the same page. And just be like, where are we at on this? And it's like, oh, that's where we're at on this? It's like, yeah, that's awesome. Or no, I don't love that.
Mhm.
And if it's something that you don't love it, then you can choose to, when you step back into the world, when you re-engage, you can choose how to position your environments to influence
Mhm.
that. Because I can't. Maybe somebody can, but I don't think we do. I don't think we can tell our subconscious stop feeling that way. Like I just don't think that's physically even possible.
Mhm.
But when we create the environment and you strategically position your environment. So when I had a lot of really bad long-term and short-term memory loss, and like I mean I couldn't say like a three-word sentence, let alone find my keys,
Mhm.
and so I had to implement a lot of things to where, well, I'm going to put this here because I have to cross this plane to get to there. So I know in 10 minutes I'm going to lose that if I don't position it here. So there was a lot of strategy involved when I had so much brain damage
Mhm.
as to how to get through the day. Well, I took those same strategies into my current life with like strategically positioning experiences to influence the subconscious. So, for example, um, imagination. For me, imagination is so important.
Yes.
So, and it's not so much what you're imagining; it's just actually tapping that button
Mhm.
and just activating it. So I started reading a lot of fiction and a lot of, I just changed what I was reading because what I found was whatever I was reading would overlap into my meditation. And I'd be like, oh, that's in there. So I learned that even if it's stuff that I don't think I'm taking in, if it's things that are in the environment, I'm like, yeah, I don't pay attention to that. Well, guess what? You really are paying attention to that. You are.
Mm-hmm.
We are. And it's in there and it's residing. And we think it may not influence us and we think we can separate ourselves from it, but it just doesn't work that way. And so as I was doing this, I was like, oh, I probably need to shift off of that genre, you know, and just started to change those dynamics to really help influence my perception, to help influence how I perceived other people and how I perceived other environments. And the more often you do that, then it starts to become retention and it starts to become default, not strategic, you know? Yeah.
I love
Is
it.
that?
Oh yeah, all of it. An awareness, and then exercising your gift of choice, changing your environment, imagination. I'm having a really great time listening and speaking with you. This reminds me of why we have this strong connection.
Mm.
And same thing, like starting with yoga, and I needed a stretch. I had an injury. Like this, I need to feel better. I'm pretty sure this is going to do it. I've been told it's going to help. Let me do this. Let me stick with it. And then everything just starting to happen. It's very much the same.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very happy we had a chance to sit down and talk, and every time we do, our connection grows, and I can't believe I continue to learn more about you. I didn't know you were a teacher in your early 20s.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm super excited to see where we both go, and to also be able to sit down with you again after your big adventure. You have something big coming up, and can you share a little bit about that? Like,
Yeah, for sure. So like we said in the very beginning is, the business world is kind of losing its luster for me.
mhm,
And I'm a few years ago, shifted some of the way that I ride the motorcycles. And so for the last 20 years, I've been, um, riding just locally and for fun and all that stuff. But I've also been doing long distance touring as well. Um, and so I'm currently on a path to finish the Pan America, which
mhm,
means so last year, I rode up into the Northwest Territories to a place called Tuktoyaktuk in Northwest Territories in Inuvik, and put my motorcycle front tire in the Arctic Ocean. So, and then I went down Baja California, and got down to the Cabo side. So as far as you can go on that peninsula, and in a couple of months, I'm going to be going down through Mexico, Central America, hopping over to South America, and then riding down to Ushuaia, which is the farthest point you can go on the Americas.
okay.
Um, so I'm excited about that. I'm planning on spending about a year
Uh-huh.
to do the Central and South America stuff. Probably spend most of the time in South America. But yeah, I'm nervous. Like
Yeah.
I'm not so much even nervous about the ride. I'm not even nervous about that. Like it's gonna have its problems, it's gonna have its excitement, it's gonna have to be an adventure. But like this, like I'm leaving my business. I'm leaving my professional life.
Mhm.
Hopefully I can maybe pick up some people to work with, some clients to work with more on the personal development for business development, maybe even some maybe even I do stick with some more focused on business stuff. As long as I feel like I'm contributing
Mhm.
and it's not just strictly about money. Like the money can come second, and it will, but I want to focus more on human development,
Mhm.
on developing us. first. I just want that to be the priority, you know. But it'd be great if I could pick up some work and do that, you know, remotely while I'm out
Yeah,
going across the
I
continent. Yeah.
believe that's going to happen. You like any challenges that arise within work or anything else is all going to propel you into you serving and sharing, and you have a lot of wisdom, and I know you're going to get to change a few lives along this year-long journey, and change a few lives here with everybody who's made it this far in the podcast. I want to say I value your friendship. I'm really happy our paths have crossed, and I'm excited for them to continue to.
Yeah, me too,
So
for sure.
I really appreciate you, Matt.
Yeah, you too. Like you've been a big influence of me being able to find that inward access.
Thank you.
So it's been awesome.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing,
Yeah.
and we'll bring a close here. And again, if you made it this far in the podcast, it helps us a lot if you like and subscribe. And I also want to hear from you. If you resonated with any of anything I said, Matt's story, and if so, sound off in the comments below. Once again, I'm Jeff. It's Matt Butler, and hope you have a great evening, great day, wherever you're at. Thank you.